Oh, I remember now. The tax the public treasury is about the best investment that capitalists can make. You know, I mean, they'll spend a few $1 million on lobbying and some campaign contributions, and then they'll get a contract for an oil reserve that's worth $20 billion. I mean, there's no investment you can make in the private business world of a few million and come out with $20 billion. I mean, and you can go on plundering and ripping off from the public treasure. It's about the best investment you can make is to buy politicians and then to buy the resources that belong to the people and walk off with it. These reactionaries who scold us for running to the government for a handout themselves run to the government for handouts. Why else would they have thousands of lobbyists? How many lobbyists do you have in Washington? Trying to scratch up. Be quiet. What do you mean? Some union or something? Is that it? Trying to scratch up some money for you. How many lobbyists you have? I don't see any hands going up hardly. Corporate America yearly enjoys billions of dollars in subsidies, grants and aid, airwave licenses, loan guarantees, bailouts, tax breaks. You can go on, export subsidies. With all the profits it pulls in every year, corporate America is on welfare, and we got to get them off welfare. The essence of free market corporate capitalism is the transformation of living nature into commodities and commodities into dead capital. So you take living nature and you get all these forms and you get it, and then you finally accumulate these abstract forms of wealth which are going to be answered. I mean, they're really, all money and all treasury notes, all bonds, all stock, they're really sort of kind of promissory notes that there's a real world out there and value is going to keep getting created, and then this stuff I can cash it. I got these billions of dollars, you see. But it's kind of a depressive thing. It goes from living nature to this great amassing of dead capital. When left entirely on its own devices, capitalism foists its diseconomies and its toxicity upon the general public and upon the natural environment. And then it does an interesting thing. It eventually begins to devour itself. If the paladins of corporate America want to know what really threatens our way of life, it's their way of life. Their boundless way of pilfering the very community and environment that sustains them. And the more successful they are, the more deadly they become. Like any parasite. If it becomes too successful in its host, it does what? It kills the host, and it's going to be a catastrophe for the host, that's us, and for the parasite too. There's a myth that prosperity is shared by us all. More for them means more for me. I've heard that. I've interviewed people who say, well, you know, the big company, if they create the jobs that and then there's something for me. We hear that a rising tide lifts all boats. You've heard that one, right? I always say a rising tide can sink a lot of ships and drown a lot of people. Still greater wealth for the very few, it means less and less for the rest of us. Now, what's been marvelous with the Occupy movement is that this has been part of the protest. This has actually been recognized. That they actually come out and they start talking about the 1% and the 99%. I think that's a beautiful division. It's much better than those stupid quintile studies used to get. The top 20% make 4 times more or 8 times more than the bottom. What does that mean? What the hell are you talking about? That's not wealth. You know who's in the top 20%? If you make over $75,000, $80,000, you're in the top 20%. you're rich. They say the wealthiest top 20%, the wealthiest quintile, the wealthiest 1/5 make this. No, you got to look at the very, very, very tiny. That one. It's really not even 1%. It's really a fraction of 1%. 1% is you're talking about 3.5 million people. There isn't that many in the super rich. It's more like 1/10 of 1%. But let's say 1%. We'll give. I mean, because everybody in 1% is doing pretty well.